Welcome back to Cutlass Vibes. Today we're going to talk about two nice cars that I have right here. They're both 1969s. The difference is one's carburetor and one's fuel injected. So we're going to talk a little bit about the differences and pros and cons on that. Stay tuned. One of them's carburetor, the other one's fuel injection over here. And we're going to talk a little bit about differences, my personal experience, because I had a carbureted car till 2020. We just did an LS swap in 2020, so I've been around it, messed with it. My dad and I have gone through a lot of stuff with it. Okay, we have the 1969 GTO, a little dirty. We live in West Texas right now. It's very windy. It's dirty, I know, guys. We got to clean it up. Has the Pontiac 400, carbureted. You can see there. Has the carburetor. And then we have also 1969 Chevy C10. This one has the 5.3, an aluminum 5.3, I believe. Very nice. Carburetor, I would say, is a lot simpler. A lot of car guys prefer carburetor because they understand them very well. They've messed with them long enough that they know what to do with them, how to fix them. They're simple if you know what you're doing. If you don't, you might have trouble adjusting the air-fuel ratio on these carburetors. But if you know how, I'm sure you know how to clean them, adjust them. They do run well. When there's a change in climate or elevation, that's where you might have some trouble with these. We went to Colorado. We had a fuel injected and carbureted. And the carburetor one, we had trouble going up a mountain. Lots of trouble getting it up there. It just doesn't adjust automatically when elevation changes, climate. This one, you just set it. And you can set them to run really well, but you have to adjust them for what you're going to do. And those don't automatically do it. Fuel injection does. So that's something that I've learned with the carburetors, is that they don't do that. They're easy to clean. If you get some dirt in there, the holes are so small where the fuel runs through, you can clog them up really easy and then they won't run well at all. Of course, that's why you have some filters. Sometimes they still get by. So that's another thing on this. Most people on the classic cars, they like to leave them stock. With their carburetor, they hold more value. You know, if you ever try to sell them, even when you're buying them, if they're stock, boy, they want a high amount for them. And once they're LS swap, sometimes they still want some money, of course, because they did a lot of work to them. They're not worth the same sometimes as car guys see it. Another thing about the carburetors, they're not the most efficient systems. You know, some of these have a slight lag, which results in a relatively slow throttle response sometimes. Some people might not agree with that. They also have some diaphragms that are delicate, and you have to make sure they're good or it won't run as well. The air-fuel mixture, like we were talking about, fluctuates on these, and that affects the engine smoothness. I think what messes up the carburetors the most is just dirt, getting it dirty. If you let them sit too long, the gasoline will gunk up in there as well. Then you have to tear it apart, clean it, or you're not going to get it to run smooth. That's another thing with these carburetors. One good thing about the carburetors, they're just simple. The mechanism is simple. A lot of older people, of course, they've messed with them a lot, enough that they can deal with them. They don't have a problem with them. Younger people, some of them have never even seen a carburetor. So I can see how that would be a problem for them to kind of maintain or keep up with. That's another difference, age. If you're good with carburetor or you like the new technology, fuel injection. Then if you want to talk a little bit about fuel injection on this side, now this is nice. Also 1969, both of them 1969s. Old rides we have here, but they're both very nice. This one has a 5.3 like I mentioned. Fuel injected. This one starts right up. Carburetor takes a little bit of pumping sometimes, like this morning. It's cold in West Texas. Like I said, it's windy. Now, fuel injection is nice. Just turn the key, pump pushes the fuel up, cranks right up. Versus carburetor. This morning, it was a little cold here in West Texas. I had to pump, get that mechanical pump to get that fuel up. Took a little bit. There's a big difference right there in that part. And I know a lot of people put electric fuel pumps. I understand that. I'm just talking more of how it was meant to work, just without all the extras, just the way it came out. Another good thing about the fuel injection, it actually automatically changes the air-fuel ratio. So if you're going up a mountain in Colorado, it'll adjust it. Has the CO2 sensor, has all kinds of sensors on these. Runs good, which is a plus, but also a minus when it comes to something going wrong with it. You have to have a computer sometimes. You have to connect it. If something goes wrong, you don't just automatically know unless you're a good mechanic and auto tech and you know a lot, you might can guess, but us average guys, we won't know probably what's wrong with it. We'd have to connect it and find out what's going on. One minus to the fuel injection is that it gets expensive to repair. Injectors aren't cheap. If your ECU computer goes out and you happen to be out of town, then you're gonna stay there until you get another one. There's no fixing it. No, you just have to get another one, replace it. That gets expensive. And that's where you can have a problem. Versus the carburetor, something happens on the road, more than likely you can fix it. That's manual, that's a lot easier to mess with if in case something like that happens. But fuel injection gets expensive. To even install it gets expensive. If something goes wrong, yeah, that's where we have a problem. And you happen to be far away from home, then you're gonna have to spend some money to get back home. Now, one good thing about the fuel injection is that these systems can control the air-fuel ratio. So it's a lot more efficient and reduce fuel consumption for sure. Lower emissions, which is what everybody's after these days. That's why they're making so many changes. So that's something that's good on that part. A question that a lot of people ask is if fuel injected engines last longer than carbureted engines. And I would say I think yes, just because they run a lot cleaner due to all the sensors and everything just runs better. I'm sure some people are gonna disagree with that. I think they do because they run cleaner. That's my opinion. And they don't run excessively rich or lean. So that can be harmful to the engine. So that's a plus, I would say. My experience with carburetors, with all these years that I owned my carburetor on my car, I had like I say a few times. Went to the store, for example, it didn't start right up, so I had to pump it. When it cranked up, I'm talking about the RPMs were crazy high. What happened is my linkage would get stuck sometimes. If you're a carburetor guy, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You see all these people just stare at you. They see an old car revved up to high heaven right there. So they don't know, if they don't understand carburetors and how it works, they just think that old car is not worth a darn. But it's just linkage sometimes gets stuck. Sometimes you can flood them. And if you don't know, then you're stuck there. You're gonna drain the battery, it's not gonna start. I had a guy ask me one time, couldn't get his car started. I went over there, he said he's just been pumping it like crazy and it wouldn't start. I could smell the fuel. I let it sit a little bit. All I did was floor it when I cranked it. And that opened up that carburetor, got enough air in there, started right up. And then of course you just get off the pedal as it starts to smooth out. He was so impressed. He didn't know how I did that, but we've done that plenty of times in our lifetime. So just another thing about carburetors. Younger generation probably could never get it started. And it's simple things like that, but us older people, we lived through it. Pretty neat. Just like I said, that time in the mountains, that's one place that I really noticed a difference. And carburetor struggled to get up. We almost didn't get it up the mountain. And the fuel injected one, like nothing. So that's the difference in the air/fuel ratio. That's where it really matters. If you're just cruising around town, your classic car, then yeah, carburetor is perfect. Fuel injection might be for the guys that like to travel and go all over state to state. So let me know what your favorite part is of carburetors and your favorite part of fuel injection, and which one do you own and why. I'd like to know that. I'd like to know about the viewers and what you guys own, what y'all work on, what your preference is. My personal preference on my Cutlass on the channel, I went with LS swap just because I do travel state to state, and I've found that it works better for me than carburetor. But I also, as soon as we changed over, I got a bad O2 sensor. First few miles, I didn't run it very long. I was at a store in Lubbock. It didn't want to start. And when it did, the AFR was hitting red. And it was running rough, rich. I couldn't even get it to move very well. Smoking. My O2 sensor was bad. See, that kind of thing is what's negative about fuel injection. You get one bad part, and then you have to get another one. You're not going to just fix that right then and there. Carburetor, you can get by, do some things, and get it home. I just wanted to make a video on these two cars because they're both 1969 Pontiac GTO, 1969 Chevy C10. Both very nice. Very nice LS swap over there that's running good. And now that's awesome. And this one's all stock with carburetor, which is also awesome in my opinion. Just wanted to share that. Let me know if you have any more information on either or. I'm not an expert by any means on all of this. Just wanted to share a little bit that I've learned, experience, because I don't have a carburetor anymore, but I did have one up to 2020. So it's only been a few years that I haven't had one. And now we got my dad this GTO, so now we're dealing with carburetor again, and we will for a while. So thank you very much for your time, for watching the videos. It's really windy. I don't know how clear the audio is gonna be, but wanted to bring something for you and show you these two awesome 1969s we have here. Appreciate you. We'll see you on the next video.